Hey guys, this is awkward. I guess we'll start with Unit 9. Oh, I'm sorry, that's gross. Unit 9 is broken up into 4 parts according to Study Island. So this is the first part. If I do too many parts, it'll be too obnoxious to upload to YouTube. So we'll start out with the very first part. So I just went into Study Island to see some kind of problems that you might get. And I will give you some examples and then hopefully, oh geez, sorry. Hopefully you could do them by yourselves then. So the first part is patterns. So you'll be given a bunch of patterns and you're going to have to identify them and write them sometimes mathematically in equations, and sometimes you'll just have to tell us what comes next in the pattern. So the very first one is one where you have to show an equation. I have to like kind of zoom out. I'm sitting down. Okay. There we go. Okay. So it gives us 3 different figures. So in the first figure, it gives us 1 triangle. The second, we have these 2 triangles. And the third, we have these 3. This graph here represents the perimeter of all 3 of these figures. So if the figure that has the 1 triangle, the perimeter is 15 because you have 4 plus 4 plus 7, which will give you the 15 there. For 2 triangles, the perimeter, which is the distance around an object, gives us 22 because 4 plus 7 plus 4 plus 7 gives us 22. And the last one, you add up all of these numbers to get the perimeter of when 3 triangles are together to be 29. The question that they ask is write an equation that represents the function. So when it's multiple choice, what I would recommend is substituting these values in for x to see which one will equal your y values. Because remember, every time we're given a graph like this, the first column are your x values, the second column are your y's. Okay? But there's something that you should notice on all of these figures. You notice that the 4 and the 4 stay the same, while every time I add a triangle, we're adding an extra 7. So in one triangle, I have 1 7, 2 7s for 2 triangles, 3 7s for 3 triangles. So that's kind of our, I guess it isn't technically a slope here because it's a function, but it is our slope. You'll notice that here. From 15 to 22, you're adding 7. From 22 to 29, you're adding 7. So whenever you're given a graph and these numbers go up by 1, come over here to the y values and see what they're going up or down by. So 15 plus 22, you're adding 7. 22 plus 29, you're adding 7. Okay, so this is what is varying in each of our figures. So in order for us to figure out what the perimeter is given n triangles, so to figure out what y is when we don't know how many triangles are in the figure, we're going to take y equals, and then this is our slope. So remember our formula, y equals mx plus b. Now we have n, okay? N is our variable instead of x. Our slope is 7, so 7n plus b. Okay, so we start out with 1 triangle. But that's not our y-intercept. Our y-intercept has to be at 0. So you have to take your perimeter right here, and you're going to have to subtract 7, or I'm sorry, you're going to have to subtract 8 from it. Hold on. Let me think this through. Yeah, you're going to have to subtract 8 from it, and here's why. Do you see what we start out with? What is constant in all of these is the 2 4s. So what is 4 plus 4? 4 plus 4 is 8. So the thing that is constant with all of these triangles is that they have the 2 4s, okay? So the constant part would be the 4 plus 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. So you could check this by putting in these values in for n. So 7 times 1 plus 8 will give you 15. 7 times 2 plus 8 will give you 22. 7 times 3 plus 8 will give you 29. Okay, so if it's multiple choice though, substitute these values in for your variables, whatever, simplify it, and you should be getting these answers here, okay? Sometimes you're going to be given these nice problems. I had to put my arm down, I was sore. The question is, what is the next term? So you have to find the pattern. So from here to here, you have to figure out what you're subtracting. So obviously if it's going down, it's subtracting. So if you need to, you could use your calculator and do 104 minus 96. And if you do that, you should get 8. And every term is going down by 8. All right. So if it asks you for the next term in the pattern, all you do is take your 72 and in your calculators or in your brains, subtract 8. So 72 minus 8 will give you 64. If it asks for the 7th term in the pattern, you just have to repeat this a couple of times. So this is the 5th term. The next term is the 6th term. So 64 minus 8 again will give you 56. That's the 6th term. And the 7th term, you just subtract 8 again here. So 56 minus 8 will give you 48. Okay? So just make sure that you're reading the directions. If it says the next term, just subtract this number one time. If it asks for the 7th term, you just have to keep on subtracting. This is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Oh. I'm sorry. Hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize there were 5 numbers. So if it asks for the 8th term, you just keep on subtracting 8. This is going really well. Oh my goodness. Next. All right. This graph, it's so beautiful. I know it's supposed to be a straight line. It doesn't look like it. But anyway, all points from which of the following patterns would be contained on the graph. So you have to look at the graph and you have to figure out what the slope is. So I put the points here. If this was a graph on the computer, you're going to see a nice line going on here. I'm not a computer, so I didn't make a nice line. But you can pick any 2 points. I'm going to pick these 2. So I start here. From this point to this point, I have to go down 1 and to the right 1. So if I'm going down 1, my slope is -1 over. To the right, you go 1. So my slope is -1. You come down here to find the pattern. Which one is going down by 1? Is 6 minus 1 7? No. So it can't be A. For B, is -5 minus 1 -12? No. So it can't be B. C says -8, so is -8 minus 1 -9? Yeah. -9 minus 1 is -10. -10 minus 1 is -11. So this C here is our answer. So first, find the slope, then take this number. This is the number that you're either adding. If it's positive, you're going to be adding. If it's negative, you have to subtract. Okay? Next. The first 4 terms of a linear pattern are given below. So anytime you have a chart, x values, y values. What is the missing term? So here we go. They're going up by 1s again. You just have to come over here to this column. What are you doing to 10 to get 16? So 10 plus 6. You add 6 to get 16. 16 plus 6. You add to get 22. 22 plus 6. You add to get 28. So what's 28 plus 6? That's all you have to do to get the next term. So you do 28 plus 6, and you get 34. So 34 would be our answer there. Next. And last, I should say. Okay, so this is our pattern now. It's 25, 31, 37, 43, 49. Which expression can be used to determine the nth term of the pattern? So nth means like no matter what number I'm looking for, one of these equations is going to be able to determine it for me. So if you wonder what the 89th term in the pattern is, you could use one of these equations to find it out more simply than doing whatever you have to do here. So you could do a couple of things. This is the first term in the pattern. Hold on. This is the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay? So you could either substitute these values in for n to get the answer, or you could figure out what your slope is, because the slope is the number that will go in front of your variable to determine what your answer is. So I'll show you the slope way first because it's easier. 25 plus what will give you 31. So 25 plus 6, I guess I like 6 when I was writing these, will give you 31. 31 plus 6 will give you 37. 37 plus 6 will give you 43. 43 plus 6 will give you 49. Okay, so you're looking for the answer where the slope is positive 6, and the answer is B. For those of you who might forget that, you could use your answers or your multiple choice answers to get the answer. So you're going to substitute 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in for n to see which one matches up with our pattern. So what I mean by that is, here's A. Obviously it's not A, but I'll show you what you would have done. So you have 20 plus 5, n. So you're going to substitute 1 in for n. So you have 20 plus 5 times 1. Well, that gives us 25. Well, our first term is 25. So don't fall into the trap and say, oh, this must be my answer, because it's not. Remember, B is our answer. You would have to try it again. You do 20 plus 5 times 2. And here, if you were to put that in your calculator or in your brain, you get 30. Well, our second term is 31, not 30. So that's how I know A can't be my answer. Okay. B, you would do the same thing. You have 19 plus 6 times 1. That will give us 25. So again, you have to keep on trying. You have to make sure it works for all of them. 19 plus 6 times 2. That better give us 31, and it does. You can try it again. 19 plus 6 times, now this time we're trying 3 out. If you put that in your calculator or in your head, you better get 37, and you do. The next one, 19 plus 6 times, now the next number is 4. And if you put that in there, you get 43. And last, 19 plus 6 times 5. You get 30, or 49, I'm sorry. And that's our term there. So that's why our equation, the equation that represents this pattern, is right here, okay? So if you don't realize, oh, I should find the slope, you could substitute these values in for n and get the correct answer. Make sure that you don't fall victim of thinking, oh, geez, it works out for the first one, it must work out for all of them. Don't be lazy. Keep doing what you're doing. Oh, sorry, that's a hairbrush on my dinner table. That's gross. My child. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful for that part. I'll upload this one and I'll upload the rest afterwards. Alrighty.